to the two middle sections. That'll make it a little easier for me to communicate well. I have a video to share here as folk are coming in, because we said we'd start at 2 and kind of get things started a little bit early here, but we call it a Smiles video. These are kids from all different places around the world in projects supported by Child Impact, smiling. And so, one of the things that when you talk about helping children globally, have you heard of poverty porn? That's where somebody shows such a pathetic, bloated belly, flies everywhere, and they make an appeal to people, help because this is such a horrible situation. We really want to show the potential that's there with these kids and show them when they're in a happy place. And so anyway, that's what we're doing here. And so we have a lot of different projects represented with these smiles. And the song it's one I think you had it on your as part of your praise time this morning. But it's sung by a 12-year-old girl. You're not going to see her on the video, but just so you know, it's a 12-year-old singing this song, which is pretty impressive. So here we go. And that's, of course, we start with Mary, of course, right?
I love you, Lord, for your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hand. From the moment that I wake up till I lay my head, I will sing of the goodness of God. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire. In the darkest nights, you are close like no other. I've known you as a father. I've known you as a friend. I have lived in the goodness of God, yeah. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God, yeah. Your goodness is running after me. Your goodness is running after me. With my life laid down, I'm surrendered now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after me. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so good. With every breath that I am able, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. I'm gonna sing, 'cause all my life you have been faithful. 'Cause all my life you have been so
Well, thank you for coming this afternoon. Let's go ahead and bow for a word of prayer as we begin. Dear Lord, we thank you for this time we can spend together. This is such an important topic and so close to your heart. I want to pray that you will guide our time together. In Jesus' name, amen. I'd like to start with kind of a little bit of a background in terms of how we got involved in fighting human trafficking. So here's a very brief video that introduces that.
Than at any time in history. Less than 1 in 100 victims of human trafficking will ever escape. God is calling us to break the chains of modern-day slavery and set captives free. Child Impact launched Operation Child Rescue 10 years ago with a project in India to combat the evils of human trafficking. From that first project, Child Impact now has 30 projects in 16 countries and growing. Hundreds of children have been set free and now have hope for a bright future. When a child is rescued, our work has just begun. We must provide a safe place, nutritious meals, and a loving team to nurture their healing journey. We would like to invite you to partner with us as part of the Rescue Party. Those who join the Rescue Party commit to support Child Impact's rescue projects on a monthly basis. This monthly gift is a lifeline to these precious children. Join Child Impact as we rescue and protect children from forced child marriage, sexual exploitation, bonded servitude, abandonment, and abuse. Thank you for bringing hope to a child.
All right, there are three main types of human trafficking globally. When most of us think about human trafficking, we think of what? We think about sex trafficking, right? That's the first one. That one gets the greatest amount of attention. But there are two other types, major types of human trafficking as well. Okay, indentured servitude. We can talk about forced labor, so to speak, and child labor. So those all fall under a human trafficking umbrella for sure. And there's one other category. When we talk about small categories like organ harvesting, that's not as common, but that kind of thing's happening. But in terms of big numbers, there's the three categories. So we've got two already. What's the third one? Child marriage. And the reason, and I wondered about that being included, but the reason it's included is because the dowry becomes the priority rather than what's best for the girl. And so the families want that dowry and they sell their daughters. So as I mentioned at church, 7 pounds of candy is a case that we had. I don't know if I mentioned that at church. I think I might have. Yeah, okay. We've had some very unusual, like a can of coffee or a chicken or a goat, and as low as $4, in value for selling their daughters, or $2. It's incredible. We have a lot of different projects around the world, and I want to kind of do an overview of some of them. But every year in October, our home office we're located on the campus of Southern Adventist University. We have an amazing team. I feel really blessed. All of them could be gainfully employed at much higher salaries than what they're receiving at Child Impact. But it is a service of passion for those that join the team. And most of our new team members in the last 4 years have joined because of Operation Child Rescue. They want to be a part of that rescuing individuals from human trafficking. But every year in October, we have what we call our home week. So it's coming up, and I begin to write on our glass board there in our boardroom, and our team begins to contribute, hey, what are the things we feel most excited about that were accomplished in the last year? Since we had our last home week in October, what do we want to highlight? Because our first magazine of the year in January, we highlight our top 5 accomplishments from the previous year. So right now we're about ready to vote on our top 5 accomplishments over this past year, but we haven't gotten there yet. So I thought I would share with you what got the top vote for last year. It was quite an exciting because we could list buildings that were built, hundreds of kids that were sponsored, projects that were completed, new offices, country offices that were open. We can list all these things, but the ultimate thing that came out on the top was a story about one girl. That was the highlight for our team. And it's a girl from India, from our blind school. And so this is the girl right here. She's just completed her surgery, and so she's still wearing her sunglasses outside. But she, before the surgery happened, she could see at about 10 to 15%, and after the surgery, she's seen at 90%. So I want to show you a video of what that looks like for this girl who can now see.
A couple months ago, we received a request from our office for eye exams to be done on students at the blind school. Rather than just assuming that these children didn't have the potential to see, it was felt that having a proper professional exam done would determine whether any of them could regain or gain some sight. We were surprised when we received a report back that several students were excellent candidates for eye operations. One particular girl by the name of Nandini had previously been able to see about 10 to 15%. After the surgery, her sight is now 90%. We were able to interact with this young girl. In fact, we wanted to quiz her a little bit to see if this was really true. First of all, she could not stop smiling. She was constantly smiling. You could see the joy she was experiencing by seeing all of these different things for the very first time. So the question was asked, what is in my wife's hair? And she said, there's yellow flowers in her hair. And I said, are you able to, because there are petals that were there, are you able to help take some of the petals out of her hair? And very meticulously, one by one, she was able to remove those petals, obviously clearly seeing what she was doing. And just a few minutes later, she was with a group of children, and we walked past, and she waved at us, clearly seeing us as we walked past her. So this is a very rewarding result from these eye exams that were done. There are several other students where progress has been made and additional surgeries will be required. But it's so rewarding to have a partnership here with the blind school, with leaders who truly care about the well-being of these students and want to go the extra mile to make sure everything possible is being done to help them have a future that is filled with hope and a bright future. In particular for this young girl, this has completely changed her life.
All right. So do you know why these children are blind, many of them? Because close relatives are marrying each other. Yeah, it's very sad. And so some of them end up being albino and blind as well. But these our team members there that work with these kids want to give them as many opportunities as possible. And we just got word back that a couple of them in the Paralympics one got, I think, a gold medal, another one a silver medal. And so when we were there, one of the girls was quite proficient in shot put. She has the technique down. And she showed us how to do the shot put. And when we threw it, just ended up in the mud. But anyway, she was so proud that she had been successful in accomplishing this. I shared this morning. I don't know if any of you have any questions on that. I'd mentioned there that we don't receive funds from the government. We are involved. Are we streaming right now? Yeah, okay. So at some point I need to remember not to share further. But we're working in countries where children are making decisions and being baptized, where they're coming from different religious backgrounds, if you know what I'm saying. And so that's something that we're able to do because we're not taking government funds. It does restrict the amount of resources that we have available to do our work, but generous donors step forward and help fill in the gap that way. And we've been growing. We have almost, I would say, in the last 4 years, as of this year, we will have doubled in our growth in terms of our annual revenue. So that means double the number of projects and double the number of kids that can be helped. And so that's been a really, really big blessing. We have inside your brochure here, there is a card, a blue card, and so we'll fill this out later. We'll collect this toward the end, but we have several areas where we invite you to participate with us, different from sponsoring a specific child. As I mentioned, that's kind of core of what Child Impact has been doing for 59 years. But we want to also invite you to look at some of these other areas that we're involved in and consider participating. But I want to do a little quiz here on the brochure itself. The girl in the front, what country do you think she's from? And I'm going to give you 4 options. Do you think she's from Turkey, India, Afghanistan, or Bulgaria? Bulgaria, right? Yeah, how did you guess that? You looked at. So this girl is from a Roma community we call Gypsy, okay? Friends, I just want to let you know that we've been involved in adoption, and after we adopt our 2 boys, we said, really, if we adopt again, we want to adopt among the Roma or the Gypsy community, because how do we start work with Roma if everybody that works with them, even all they have to say are negative things? So I heard about a lady who had done some government work among the Romas, and that she had a real heart for it, but she had separated herself from government work because it was absent from sharing Jesus. And so she really wanted to bring, that ultimate hope that we all have into the equation with these kids. So I sat down with her and said, look, we really want to start a project among the Gypsy, the Roma. Would you be interested? She started crying. She said, I never thought this would be a possibility. So in the small town of Shredats, that's where this girl is from, Chirpan, Chirpan. Shredats is where my girls came from, Chirpan. This girl's from Chirpan, and she lives in a Gypsy slum there. Her name is Ani, which happens to be the same name as my daughter, and she's about the same age. And so I really just look at this and say, wow, this girl's so vulnerable, and my daughter's safe. What a difference between the two. But we are in her community where we can do something. Now, our field vice president, Jason Churchwell, he visits all our projects around the world, and he's the one that vets new projects that we bring on board with Child Impact. He said that the most danger he's ever felt was inside that Roma community. Anywhere in the world. But these kids are just really in a place where they need somebody that will have their back and give them a chance. And they can be very successful given the chance. I'll share one quick story on this, and that is of a young lady. Her name is Joanna. Joanna entered a competition. She's Gypsy. She entered a competition called Bulgaria The Voice. So like American Idol here or The Voice here. She entered this competition. Grew up as a Seventh-day Adventist young person. And she came in second place. And she was really probably the audience favorite in the sense that way. But she has been so successful following that award she won that you can ask any Bulgarian, secular, churched, Adventist, doesn't matter. Every single Bulgarian knows who she is in the whole country. Extremely popular, superstar. And I've been able to make a friendship with her. She came and attended a seminar I was giving, and I talked about us losing our son to leukemia. And she came up and wanted to talk with me about that afterwards. And she said, how did you make it through it? And how did you survive that? And I said, well, let me just share what I shared at his memorial service. And that is, he may have lost the battle, but he didn't lose the war. And he knows Jesus, so he has hope for the future. And she said, I've lost a lot of battles. She faces extreme prejudice because of her ethnic background. When we went to adopt our girls, I told them that I know Joanna. They could not believe it. Their friends were like, what? No way. So I got a hold of Joanna. I said, would you mind sending a message for these girls and that I can play for them? So I sent her the list of all the names. She named them. I mean, of course, she had to have a perfect set for it and everything because it's all, she's a professional. She's a superstar. But she named them all by name, and then she started singing a song to them. The moment she started singing the song, all the girls started singing that song along with her. So it was super touching. And then my little girl, Ani, said, Dad, do you think we can meet her in person? I said, absolutely. When we come back to bring you home, we will go and meet Joanna. And so that's what we did. And Joanna spent a couple hours with our girls, and they just could not believe it. And now their friends, hear that Joanna's going to come to America to visit them, and it's like amazing. But that lady, and she's young, she's a young adult, probably 22 now, but she's faced such an uphill battle because of prejudice. And so I share that story to illustrate that we're committed to work with the most vulnerable kids anywhere in the world, and in the case of Europe, that vulnerable group would be gypsies. And so that's where we're working. So I hope my girls have influence in that way as they grow up and they have opportunities that would be far outside. In fact, our oldest daughter that we adopted said that there just was not a future for them in Bulgaria, and so that's why she chose to be adopted. So any questions on that? Anybody familiar with that issue? It's such a challenge. It's racism is alive in our world, and there's people that still feel those ways. And I think probably that's one of the things that irritates me the most about human nature is when we're racist just because of where somebody's coming from. That's a terrible thing for sure. All right, I want to share a video of India, a project there, tying in with our own personal story of how we got started with adoption, just to kind of give you a background with that.
Recent studies indicate that there are 30 million orphaned or abandoned children in India. India is a country that is considered to be third world because more than half of the population is below the poverty level. We saw this in visiting the villages. They're very remote, and the individuals living there are known as Dalits, which is the lowest in the caste system of India. Dalits literally means broken and scattered. And so there is a lot of need here in India in terms of reaching out to the orphans and helping to meet a need and fill the gap for these children who have such loss in their life. Our team here at the Sunrise Home look at government studies to determine where the most vulnerable communities are located. This is where they want to bring children from to attend here at the Sunrise Home. Those kids who wouldn't have a chance otherwise. They really would not have opportunity to rise above that without the education that they're receiving here at the Sunrise Home. When we arrived here at the Sunrise Home, I was excited to see Jayacinth again. He is the first child my wife and I sponsored through Child Impact. As I greeted him, as my wife and I were there together with him, one of his teenage friends made a comment to me, "He talks about you guys every day." Wow, that really struck me to realize how significant our relationship as a sponsor is to this amazing young man. I let him know that we have his picture in my office to remind us of him as well. So this is a very special boy. We look forward to going to his village to meet his mom again. He is orphaned. He's a single orphan. His father passed away. His mom is a sustenance farmer. She doesn't make enough to give him the opportunities that he is getting here at Sunrise Home. He wants to be a computer engineer. He's a very bright boy, and I believe he will be successful in that dream he has for his life. When my wife and I were dating, she told me she wanted to have 10 kids. I was taken back, but I didn't believe she was possibly serious about this. She didn't mean 10 biological children. She had a heart for adoption, and that desire grew inside of me. And so when we found out about 2 boys from Latvia that were looking for hosts to come and visit for Christmas and for summers, we immediately signed up. And that is how Andres and his brother Daniel became part of our lives. One thing we learned very quickly is that Daniel was looking out for his younger brother Andres. In fact, he was the big brother protector. Nobody dared mess with Andres because Daniel had his back. Like many of the children here at Sunrise Home, Andres and Daniel came from a very difficult circumstance. They were abandoned, left alone at a very young age, trying to fend for themselves. And yet, we had the opportunity, because of God's calling on our lives, to make a difference for these boys, to bring them into our family, to become part of our home, to become Evan's children. And I have felt from the day that they arrived at our home that our home is better because of them. When our son Andres passed away on April 13 of 2023 after a long battle with leukemia, there are many individuals that wanted to have some kind of a memory of Andres that would carry on and wanted to financially make that possible. So we decided at that point to set up a fund at Child Impact in Andres' honor. As funds came in, we began to wonder where best we could honor Andres among all of the projects supported by Child Impact. As my wife and I considered all of the projects around the world that Child Impact is involved in, it became very clear to us that we wanted Andres to be honored at an orphanage because he grew up in an orphanage. And we know the difference that having a family can make in the life of a child. And so we are so honored that right here on this campus, there's a building that has been erected in Andres' honor. Andres, all he could dream about, all he wanted was to be part of a family. And we found that to be true here for the children at Sunrise Home. Because of the love of Raj and Lalitha Warma, these children now have a family as well. And they have lots of siblings. So we are so happy to see these children find a community, find a family like we were able to provide for Andres.
So Andres was a very special young man. Didn't matter how much pain he was in, he always wanted to cheer someone else up. So he would be always giving somebody something, something that he had, he would give to them. He always wore his wristband, Child Impact wristband. It didn't matter how many tubes were attached to him. But when a nurse would come in, he would make half of a heart, and then the nurse knew that they needed to come finish that heart. But he went a second step. He'd take their hand and kiss their hand. So when he passed away, there were a lot of the nurses all came in, and I remember a doctor coming to his memorial service and uncontrollably crying and said, "I don't know why this affected me. I see it so much." He said, "I see this all the time, but something very special about this boy." But he wanted to grow up and adopt. That was his dream. And so that's what we did. We said, look, if he'd been well, we would have adopted already again, so let's go ahead and start the process. And so that involved bringing our girls home. So this is when we went to pick them up to bring them home. And I just always begin by the afternoon program by sharing this because you never know when there's somebody that is sitting in an audience whose heart is touched and said, you know what, and they say, I need to get involved in adoption. That's something that we should do. And honestly, I'll tell you this, if you get involved in the foster care system here in the United States, you are directly helping to stop human trafficking. 60% of kids, of girls that age out of foster care end up in sex work in the United States. And then when you look at the global issue with, these kids, in a place like Bulgaria where, racism keeps these kids from getting homes. And you look at how much we're blessed here in the United States. My wife and I, we just feel like we're going to keep adopting as long as God gives us the ability to do it. Right now we have a couple of kids in Colombia. If any of you would be willing to adopt a blind boy, there's a boy there whose father pressed his eyes in until he blinded him. And he's a very intelligent boy. His favorite, I met him in person there in Colombia. His favorite thing to do is run. You give him open field, he will run to his heart's content. Very smart boy, quick learner, desperate to get a home. He just wants a family. And so I'm very happy to connect with any of you. I had an hour-long conversation with somebody who's planning to adopt 4 kids from Bulgaria. They've already identified the 4 kids, and so yesterday I was telling them where they can get grants and shared resources with them. And so you never know. It may not be you. It may be somebody you know, but please spread the word that kids are waiting to be adopted. If you can't adopt, OAC, you can sponsor a kid for $50 a month. So that's an easy path compared to adoption. We're able to get the funds to adopt, but then the hard work is putting all these kids in Adventist schools. And I literally had to take from my retirement fund to pay last year's debt off from school bills. And now I'm just sitting down with them and saying, sorry, I don't have it. We want our kids to go here, but we got to come up with something. We got to be creative here. And so our kids are working, they're doing their part, but we're looking and saying, hey, what are we building up a kingdom here on this earth for? We need to be helping as many kids as we can. So any questions on that about adoption, in particular as it relates? Child Impact is not an adoption organization. This is something that we're doing on our own because of God's calling for us. But I always like to start with this one. All right? Now, very interesting. We only found out this week. Both of our girls, they've been here it's about a half a year now. And independently of each other, they came and asked to be baptized. Our oldest daughter said, is there a charge to get baptized? I'm like, I'd never heard anybody ask that question, and then I found out in Bulgaria, there's actually churches that charge kids to get baptized. I'd never heard of such a thing. And then our younger one asked about being baptized as well. So they had their first Bible study this last week for baptism. We've set a date for January 24 where they'll be baptized. But at the first Bible study, it was with a pastor who lives in the area who's Bulgarian, and so he's able to have it in Bulgarian. And he said, Tom, you need to know something. I just had this first Bible study with your daughters, and they both had dreams where Jesus spoke to them. I'm like, what in the world is going on here? And you've met our girls. And Gabby, the oldest, she's scared coming to us. She has friends. What have I done? I don't know the language. I don't know these people. I'm moving to this strange country. Never been out of this town, hardly the 1,500 people population. We didn't know until this week, but on the night she arrived, she heard a voice speaking to her as she was sleeping. You're going to be fine. This is a good family. They're going to take care of you. And it just hit me to the core. She woke up and she's like thinking, did my sister talk to me? What's going on here? And she realized, and she attributes that Jesus spoke to her and let her know everything was going to be okay. It's tough for these kids making these transitions. And then more recently, Ani had such an experience. And so our pastor friend was like, you've got to share this. These girls have a story to tell. So God is working their lives, and it'll be amazing to see what the future holds that way. But as I said before, in the video there, our family is richer, fuller, better because these kids have come into our lives. I've found the most common reason that people don't adopt is because it will be inconvenient. We like our schedules. We like our finances the way they are. Our lives might just get disrupted a little bit if we're bringing more kids into the picture. And I just haven't accepted that. Our family hasn't accepted that as a reason not to get involved. And I'm glad we haven't, because we could have, my wife and I are about ready to be empty nesters when we decided to bring these girls into our home. And now we've got an 11-year-old. Oh my goodness. So might as well get some more, right? Anyway, we'll give them a little while to adjust. But we're up to doing it more. We're actually on the list for 2 kids potentially. So we'll see what happens. All right. Here we go. Let's move on to human trafficking stereotypes. So now we're going to move to sex trafficking in America, and I'll highlight some of the features in the booklet that's been written. But we have a stereotype in America of what human trafficking looks like, where it happens. So if you were to pick a store, a big box store where you think somebody might be abducted or picked up, which store would you say that is? Walmart. I couldn't put it in the book because we might get sued. So it is true. So everybody heard what she said, and we're recording, so I'm not going to repeat it because I don't want to get sued by that particular organization. And what type of vehicle is driving around in that parking lot? A van. What color is the van? And does it have a lot of windows or not? No. Okay, so right on the front of the book, you're going to, here it is, right here. Here it is. There we go. So that's it, right? And we first I had the name of the store on it, and my team told me we had to take it out. So there we go, the white panel van. There it is. All right. So, I want to share with you what's wrong about this photo. All right? First of all, it's the wrong way around because it would be the girl going up to the guy. Why? Where did they meet? They met online, right. So when we think about what are the risks that our kids face for human trafficking, it's how they're involved online. That's what it's like in the U.S. Overseas, it's poverty. Here in the U.S., it's social media. And I just pulled this quote, and I was going to put it on the screen, but I heard this on the news this week. The Utah governor, did you hear this statement that he made? He made a very impassioned speech, which I thought was very well done. And he made this comment: social media is a cancer on our society right now. I'm like, wow, that is so true. So that's just on the news this week. And that's the reality that we're facing with our kids that way. So who's most vulnerable to trafficking in North America? People who spend a lot of time on social media. That's it. And who spends the most time on social media? Kids. So my 17-year-old that we just adopted has 22,000 followers on TikTok before we adopted her. Now she has 24,000. That is not easy to build that many followers. She's an expert at lip-syncing Turkish songs. And she does the hair flip and the winks and looks real cute and all that. And she's got all these followers. So when she came home, we had to sit down and say, okay, let's look at all these videos you posted. Are there some of them that might attract the wrong person? Now, I have to tell you this. Without a family, without an Adventist background, she was making better choices on social media than a lot of our Adventist kids do. Amen. So she pulled down a few videos, but honestly, those were better than a lot of what kids put out on social media today. In fact, whenever I go to hire somebody, one of the first things I do, in fact, there was a young lady that was very impressive in helping us with a project and fundraising, and I'm like, man, we need to hire this girl on our team. Then I went and saw what she had on social media, and I'm like, no, we're not going to hire her on our team. So I love to be able to speak with young people and encourage them to not post anything that you wouldn't want your parents to see, or your pastor, or your teacher, or some trusted adult. And because once you put something out there, it's there for everybody to see, and you just might attract, and you will attract the wrong kind of person. And so every girl wants to look beautiful. They want to look sexy, and so they put stuff up that shouldn't be on social media. And you as parents are not on the same platforms that they're on, so you don't see it. You have no idea. I remember my son and I, we were sitting at our home with a good friend of mine and his daughter. He was just so sure his daughter was making all these good decisions. My son went on the social media where this girl is at, and was like, her dad has no idea. He has no idea what she's posting. And he thinks it's all fine because he's on Facebook. Well, that's not where our kids are at. That's for old people, right? Our kids are on TikTok, Instagram maybe, Snapchat, other places that, and we're just not there. And so we don't know what's going on. So that's something we need to be aware of. So we looked at this question this morning. The correct answer is 11 to 13-year-olds, followed by 7 to 10-year-olds. This study was of 3. Man, I'm going to make sure I get it. So you need to go look at this study right here. It looked at thousands, tens of thousands of child porn sites. And they were able to track where these predators are looking and where they're going. And they're able to identify that they're really after 11 to 13-year-old girls. Why? We think when our kids get to be teenagers, well, then let's have the talk with them about what they post, right? That's too late. Because that's not the pathway that they're getting connections to our kids. I'll share where that is in a moment. Do you have an idea? Yeah, it's other places. So What percentage of minors are solicited by strangers online for sexually explicit content? Correct answer on that one is 36%. So this is from somebody that they don't even know, right? That's asking them for this material. So there's the source for that one. And I want to highlight that image right there. Where's this girl at? In her bedroom. So she's at home. And so I really make the illustration in the book here that we lock our doors at night, we arm the security system, and we think our kids are safe at home, and that may be the place where they're the most in danger. If we let our kids, unsupervised, take their phones to bed with them, they are going to eventually land in some kind of trouble. Because there are people that will specifically target them. They may not be out looking for anything harmful. We may fully trust our kids, but it's late at night, unsupervised, that these things start to happen. And so our 17-year-old daughter leaves her phone downstairs when she goes upstairs for bed at night. She still lives at home. She likes living at home. She likes to have her phone. A 17-year-old girl has the highest usage of social media, almost 6 hours a day. Over half of 17-year-old girls spend about 6 hours a day on their phones, on social media. So we get it. We understand that this is a lifeline. This is important to her. And so we don't just rip it away, but we say this needs to happen in a way where you're safe. So she came to me the other day and said, "Dad, who's this person asking to be my friend?" It was a middle-aged guy. I'm like, I have no idea who this is. She said, he's friends with some of my other friends. I'm like, I've never heard of this person. I have no idea who it is. So delete, right? Do those other parents know that their daughters are friends with this guy? What's he doing being friends with 13, 14, 17-year-old girls? And so this is very important that we as parents are vigilant and we have access to our kids' social media accounts. We know where they're at. We know who's communicating with them, and that we keep that open communication with them. I wrote this booklet based on raising 9 kids and being aware of some of those things that they're exposed to. So my 22-year-old guy, he's one of those ones that, takes a detour from A to Z, He has to learn everything the hard way. And so he's about to turn 22. And I gave the book to him and his girlfriend at the time. And I said, did I miss anything? And they looked through it and said, you probably want to mention this, and you probably should include this. I wanted it to be as comprehensive as possible because we as parents just aren't aware. And things are changing so rapidly that we want our kids to be safe. So that's super important. All right, in case we think that we are immune to any of this, 75% of Christian men and 40% of Christian women reported consuming porn on some level. When was this study done? Yeah, this is not some old study, right? This is last year. And then notice this. You can help end sex trafficking by simply refusing to participate in the production, distribution, or consumption of pornography. That is where the funds that fuel pornography come from. That fuel human trafficking, it comes out of pornography. And so in a church this size, in a congregation this size right here, right now, there are some of you who are struggling with pornography. When I was in second or third grade, I was invited, and exposure to pornography happens at a very young age, by the way. At second and third grade, I was invited to a birthday party, and I got permission to get off at a bus stop earlier than my home stop. And as I got out, the boys were already up in a tree house, and they were all gathered around something, looking at something kind of like they were hiding. And they said, "Tommy, come up here." And I'm like, there's something not right going on here. Now, it wasn't phones back then. It was dirty magazines, right? And so that's what I discovered they were doing up there, but I chose not to go up that tree house. And I've made that decision for my whole life to not get involved in pornography. It dehumanizes women and men. It monetizes individuals. And it is infidelity when somebody is allowing themselves to find gratification along those lines. And it affects men and women of every age. It is shocking sometimes when you find out, that somebody's been involved and they're like an elder in the church. And it's like, what's going on? So the enemy knows how to attack us. Men are very visual in nature, and we are naturally drawn to a woman's body, a beautiful woman's body. That is natural for a man to be drawn that way. But we need to be faithful to our spouses, and we need to be faithful to God. And by getting involved in pornography, we are unwittingly helping to support human trafficking. So I think that is just a devastating thing. And because I've not ever had to go that journey of getting out of pornography, I've been able to provide some resources here. I've done some research in that area. And toward the back here of our booklet, we have some help in terms of where you can turn to break free from pornography. But I just want to share that. I never dreamed in my life that I would ever be somebody who would go around and talk about this issue, because it's usually people who've been in it and somehow gotten out that get up front and talk about it. I've never been in it, don't intend to ever be in it, but I can tell you that the temptation's constantly in front of us, isn't it? And that's a challenge. All right. One of your seventh grade boys here was talking about some of these subjects, being a little more careful in how I talked about some of them, and he said, are you talking about OnlyFans? How many of you know about OnlyFans? Okay. A few of you do. You likely, when you're at the grocery store or Costco or Walmart, you're walking past women who are creators on OnlyFans, because there are 1.1 million women in the United States who are on OnlyFans creating personalized porn content. That is a huge number. And so what happens is the allure of OnlyFans, different from a site like Pornhub, which is the largest pornographic site. OnlyFans tries to appeal to the idea of a dating relationship, like you're having a personal relationship with this creator that is producing this content for you. And so she'll communicate back and forth to you, and you can ask, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you show this? And she becomes almost in a way like a friend to you as she's producing this content, this pornographic content. And of course, you're paying for it, and she's making money off of that. Let me ask you a question. How many personal, intimate relationships do you think one woman, one creator on OnlyFans can have at one time? How many guys can she keep on the line having this kind of close relationship with? What do you think? 5, several, okay. How many think more than 5? How many? Give me a number. 30 or 40, okay. Probably. Anybody think higher than that? That's her only job, yeah. Her only job. How many? 50 to 100, okay. All right.
My oncologists carry 500 in their caseload, so
500 maybe. Okay. So we can get we can make an argument maybe up to 500, okay? What happens when a lady has 5,000 or 10,000 or 100,000? How is she having an intimate personal relationship with each one of these guys? So what is she going to do? Because that's the allure. That's what makes this site so popular. What's she going to do? She's gotten too popular. All these men want this personal relationship with her. She has a team. Someone says, okay. So here's a loaded question right here. What is the title of someone hired to impersonate an OnlyFans model and engage with their subscribers? So I'm telling you how it's done now. There's a name for it. How many say it's an imposter? For sure. How many say it's a chatter? Anybody for a scammer? Anybody for a bilker? Or whatever that is, right? Okay, I threw in a weird word there. Okay, the correct answer is chatter. So this woman will actually hire multiple individuals to represent her to her clients. Guess who you're talking with if you're on OnlyFans with one of these very popular ladies? Who are you communicating with? Probably a man, right? You're talking with a man from the Philippines. The majority of chatters are hired in the Philippines. Some of you know Melissa Moore. She's married to Will. Her mother-in-law has been out here helping me. But Melissa is half Filipino. And she's like, Tom, do you have to put Philippines in here? Do you have to identify that country? Aren't there other countries involved? And I said, Melissa, I'm sorry. It's the Philippines. And so, yeah, that's where it's at. And they make a few dollars an hour, and they are experts at fan psychology, of knowing when to offer the drops of new content, how to keep these men strung along and paying, thousands of dollars to have relationships with these ladies. So, do you think this happens on our Adventist campuses? Do you think any of those girls are on OnlyFans? We think we're immune from all this stuff, but we're not. And I will avoid going into stories because I don't want to hurt enrollment in any of our universities. But we need to be aware of what our kids are up to as parents and realize that all of this affects us in the society that we live in today. All right. Chatters don't just respond to messages, they actively drive sales. Trained in fan psychology and persuasive writing, they know when and how to make offers, time discounts, introduce new content drops by maintaining daily conversation with fans. Chatters keep them emotionally invested and more likely to spend. This is a virtual staffer from the Philippines. If you go to Reddit, you can find ads for chatters to work in the Philippines. It's a real job that is preying on American men, mainly, who are addicted to pornography.
And basically taking their life away.
Oh, yeah. So let's move to online gaming. What online game or games are the hunting ground for child predators? All of the above, but the big culprit is Roblox. Yeah. Roblox is the company that I identified this morning that actually just sued an individual who is a vigilante calling out perpetrators on Roblox. They said, let us do our job. We're the ones that need to deal with these people. But they're not doing it. But they're going to sue a guy who is trying to do it. So there are so many different aspects to Roblox and places where you can play in that game that are very directly human trafficking related. And there are kids who have met with strangers that they played online, who have been abducted, who have been abused, trafficked because of playing a game like Roblox. Now, Roblox is the most popular game in the world. And they will claim that 1 in 2 American kids are on this game at some time. They have a massive amount of users. And so we as parents can look at this game. My kids played it, years ago. You can look at it, and on all appearances, if they're in the right places, the game looks innocent enough in itself. But the danger is that you play with friends and with strangers, and these strangers will pretend to be your age, pretend to be somebody maybe around the corner that you can be friends with. And every teenager has times where they're stressed out with their parents, and that person's a listening ear for them, and they groom them. These people are experts in grooming. So it's literally a hunting ground for our kids. So the biggest danger for human trafficking to our kids in America is online gaming. Where that turns into something really sinister is in the chat rooms, like Discord, and our kids end up taking from the game into these chat rooms, and that's where then they begin to be asked eventually for explicit content. Maybe that individual shares some explicit content with them. There is a story that I share in the book about a boy by the name of Ryan, who was in Future Farmers of America. Good kid. He was sent a nude photo by a 20-year-old girl who asked him for a photo in return. He sent a photo back. He was then asked for money in order to not share that photo with people that he cared about. He didn't have that much money. He sent what cash he had and wrote a note, a farewell note to his parents. This is not the only story like this. They found out that he was communicating with 4 men from the Ivory Coast in Africa who were intentionally targeting American boys. I can tell you, for a teenage boy to be sent a beautiful photo of a body of a woman that they think that they're communicating with, the temptation for our kids is tremendous. And I can share even much closer at home kinds of stories related to this, where good Adventist kids from homes where parents love them have gotten caught off in something like this. It's called sextortion or sexting. And a more innocent, so to speak, version of this happens quite commonly among our kids, and that is to share a photo with a boyfriend or girlfriend back and forth with each other. And so they share a shot, some photo, send it across to each other, and they're dating, they trust each other, they're curious, and these photos go out. What happens when they break up? What happens when the guy decides to show one of his buddy, hey, look at my girl? All of a sudden, the girl ends up, there's been photos of her shared all over the place, and people are looking at her different and treating her different, and it's like, well, what happened? I just sent you, what did you do? Well, I just shared it with one person, and that person, then out it goes on social media, and children have taken their lives over stuff like this, which is so tragic. And so I always encourage young people, first of all, if you make a mistake, God forgives, and there's always an opportunity for a new start. There's nothing that happens that is worth saying, hey, I've made a mistake that there's no turning back from. No, it's okay. But I also share that, don't share a picture that you wouldn't want seen by lots of people. And so it's super, super important for our kids to be thinking about these things. There's a lot more I could share on this, but roadblocks there, just call them out. Look at this, 40% of users are under the age of 13. So that's how we get down to those lower ages being targeted by the perpetrators. All right. I want to come to this. I've alluded to it a little bit, but where are these 1 million victims of human trafficking? Where are they coming from? In the United States, some of them, a significant portion of the kids that are in trafficking are coming out of the foster care industry. And you'll see various numbers, but 50 to 60% is probably on the conservative side. I don't want to overinflate things. So this is probably a very safe number to say these are the number of trafficking situations coming out of the foster care system. And then here are the stats. Every year, 23,000 foster care children age out. 3% finish college by age 26. The national average is 38%, I believe. 20% become instantly homeless. 25% are incarcerated within 2 years, but 90% of children with 5 or more placements are incarcerated within 2 years. And then this last one, 60% of the girls end up in the sex industry. So I really think that as a church, if we want to make a direct impact against human trafficking, foster care is something that we should really seriously look at and say, do we have families in our church that would be open to doing this? How can we support them? Can we support them financially? Can we provide respite care if they get involved in this way? It is a true ministry. The foster care system in the United States may be one of the most broken in the world. Canada has a much better foster care system. Many countries are moving away from institutional orphanages to foster care. There's 3 primary ways that orphan children are looked after in our world. Foster care is one. That's the United States method. Your traditional orphanage are boys we adopted from a traditional orphanage. And kids that come out of that setting, it's kind of a free-for-all. They eat what they want. They watch what they want. I mean, just the stories my boys tell me about how these kids and what they got involved in. And, have this girl do this to this boy for a piece of candy, and it's just like, I met that girl. She's 11 years old, and she did it to get the piece of candy, and these kids are exposed to these things, and they watch anything they want on television, and, our boy's making really good choices. We're really proud of him. I'm happy for you to look him up on social media on all of his accounts. And then there's the group home situation where you have a couple of professionals that look after a smaller group of kids. That was the situation for our girls, and I felt like they were well loved by those that looked after them, and they had good friendships with the girls that they were hanging out with, but it's still not a family. And so really, God places the lonely or the solitary into families. That's what Scripture says. That's God's desire for those that are lonely, and it could be a widow, it could be a widower, it could be an orphan child, and that's why we're told in James 1:27 that true religion is to look after widows and orphans, right? Because God wants to set the lonely or the solitary into families. My mom lives with us as well. My parents went through divorce many years ago now, and my mom had remarried, and her husband passed away, and she moved in with us, and that's our new reality. We're called to do this, to make sure that people aren't alone. We're meant to be in community. And so the more that churches can do that, I think the more we're living out what Jesus really describes as true religion, right? Orphans and widows. We've got to do something about it. Here's the booklet. If you want a download of it, you'll all have a copy here, but you may want to pass this on for free download. The other thing I want to let you know is that some of you work with employees. You may be somebody who's president of your company. You may be an employee of a company where you would like to share this resource with your colleagues at work. We have plenty of these that we printed. You can order as many as you like. They're $5 each to order. You get them free for coming here this afternoon. But I really want to encourage you to spread the word. Help those people you love protect their kids, because believe me, they don't know. And like I said, I've tried to make this as comprehensive of a resource as possible. All right. Before we move into global human trafficking, let's see if you have any questions about trafficking in the U.S. I have one more stat I want to share just to scare you a little bit more. AI. How do you think AI is affecting all of this? There is something trending right now, and it just came out, and that's one thing my son pointed out to me. Got to include this in the book, Dad. Okay? First of all, we know that you can put someone's face on any body, on any kind of a body, and you can make it look like they're involved in pornography. This happened to Taylor Swift. I never saw the images. I heard it happen to her. She's the most famous person in the world. Happened to her. Okay? But it can happen to anybody, and in Korea, it's running rampant right now with Korean. Any superstar in Korea, they end up with their body, someone else's body on their head, and it's just happening a lot in Korea. But it's coming here, and it will be here more and more. But something that's trending that about 11% of our kids have seen it already. And another 9 or 10% say they don't want to give an answer yes or no whether they've seen it, which tells me about 20% of American kids have been exposed to this new AI strategy called a Nudify app. A Nudify app takes a face of anybody and undresses that person. Anyone who looks at that photo would not know whether that is that person or not. And so there are kids that are doing this to each other in the school setting. And here we have these rules about not using AI for homework. But what rules do we have for somebody taking the face of your daughter or your son and putting it in a Nudify app and showing them undressed? And how does that affect our kids when this happens? Our schools don't have rules for these things. And so if you don't have a policy that way and you're on the board here, I would put a policy in place as fast as you can, because this is trending. This is skyrocketing in terms of, now their legislation is rushed in to try to deal with this, but it is hard to keep up with how fast things are changing in the digital world and with AI. So we purposely did an AI cover on this book because that is the kind of thing that we're dealing with here. So you had a question, yes, sir?
A lot of talk lately about virtual reality.
Yeah.
Is that some way to entice young people to get involved with?
I haven't studied that area so much, virtual reality.
Meta is the one they bring up a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't, fortunately, I don't know how it's, I'm aware of many of these things, but fortunately the way I'm searching and learning and talking and finding out, I'm still not getting inundated on my devices with all the junk. I'm doing it as a research kind of thing, and so, and I just find out and follow those things more and more, but it's super challenging, so we need to be prepared as much as we can. It's changing very quickly. I mean, we're going to need to update this probably in a short time. It's changing so quickly. Yeah, I mean, finding out about Roblox suing this guy, that came out after the book was already. But I already nailed him pretty badly in the book. So, okay, let's move on to global human trafficking. Let's see. I want to go back to this first. Okay, right here. Let's go back to this picture. So we reenact some of the stories that happen with our projects. And so we were reenacting girls going to truck stops to sell vegetables where they get solicited by truck drivers. As we're doing it, a truck driver solicited this girl. So this is a still shot of the video we made of what we thought we were reenacting actually happened. And so it's like, whoa! But I want to share a video with you that has become one of my favorites. There's a trigger warning for about 15 seconds in it. But we do have the girl's face blurred. It's more the part of the story that she tells that way. It might just probably go right over the heads of your kids. But anyway, just want to go ahead and share this now. It's about a 3 to 4 minute video from Zambia about human trafficking.
I have been in law enforcement for 12 years. And what I've learned over 12 years is that safety is key. I'm constantly thinking about not only my safety, but a perk of the job is the safety of others. And safety, especially of vulnerable communities, which include young girls and women. And unlike being in the US, safety here in Zambia is not really all that emphasized. It's upsetting, it's angering, it's heartbreaking.
Hi everyone, I'm going to share with you my story from bad to good. When I was staying with my aunt and uncle, my uncle used to sexually abuse me every night, and sometimes he used to come to my bedroom and would slap me, force me to sleep with him. He used to threaten me if I tell anyone, he's going to kill my brothers and me, and no one is going to know.
I am a protector. That's my job. My job. I'm also a parent. And somebody has to stand in the gap to protect them. And that's sponsors, that's the staff here at Riverside, and just a little bit that I could do to contribute with some of my knowledge base and experience. I wanted to make sure to share that with them, and I hope that they understood that I'm passionate about them and that I care about them and their well-being.
My neighbor told me about this school, Riverside Secondary School. Yes, she told me about Child Impact, how they help people and they change lives of people.
And here at Riverside, this is a fantastic school, and they have very high expectations for the kids. It's known throughout the country as one of the top schools. For some of these kids, the most vulnerable, they can't pass the tests to get into Riverside. And so we were like, how do we get these kids into a safe place on campus? And Melissa said, what about a program where we could tutor the girls and also give them a life skill?
So the girls that are in the tailoring program, oftentimes it's because their academics weren't enough for them to qualify to attend secondary school. And so without that secondary training and without any kind of vocation, their options were very limited of what they can do with their lives. And so some of these girls, a lot of them, have grown up with very poor families, and so there's a lot of pressure on them to do something to earn money for their families. Some of them are selling tomatoes or potatoes or corn in the market. Others are selling themselves in the market. And so we knew that we had to do something to end that. Rescue at Riverside means we are going to bring you to a safe place. Forget about the chaos of your life before. We're going to bring you to safety here. You can always feel safe here. So we're sometimes rescuing girls who have already experienced trauma and abuse, and we're also rescuing girls from that trauma and abuse. If they meet the same vulnerability criteria, we can predict what their life would be like without this intervention. And let's try to grab those girls and say, would you like a chance to have an education? Would you like to have a chance at learning tailoring? Then come, we have a spot for you. And we heard from the kids several times. They said, I cannot believe you picked me. Like, they're so proud of themselves, and we're so proud of them too. They have overcome so much just to be here. When I was sitting in geometry class, I wasn't thinking about somebody might hurt me when I go home. That's what these girls have to face, is that this is really a lifeline for them. Being in this program, it's a lifeline for them. Attending Riverside is saving their life.
$700 students. 600 of them are sponsored by Child Impact. And this is the school where we're offering the Rescue a Girl opportunity. You saw the one dormitory. A second dormitory has just been finished, and we hope to move 100 girls in there. 35 moved in to begin that last semester of the year, and we're going to open that up for another 65 girls in January to move in. But these are the circumstances that these girls are coming from. I want to move to Tanzania. One more video here, and then we'll open up for questions again. We are working. Let's go ahead and stop the live stream right now, if we could, for this one. Thank you. We're working with Muslim girls in Tanzania. Tanzania is a Muslim minority country. There's a large population there, but it's not in majority. They have a Muslim women